What's up, guys? Haven't posted a tier list in a while, so let's just go into a new tier list. We again always do lane tier list and then jungle tier list, depending on what role you play. You can either skip or watch right now or skip to the jungle tier list. So this one is for laning Pokemon. If you pick a top or bot path, how does it perform throughout the entire match? So let's just straight up start with it, right? We have Venusaur. I think Venusaur's alright in lane, right? It's a decent Pokemon. It always does its job. To me, I think it's quite decent in the current meta as well. It just can struggle sometimes in laning phase a bit, but I think it's quite solid and just always a reliable late game carry. Gengar has fallen off a lot, I think, in the current meta. Too many supports, too many defenders. It's very difficult to get those resets in. Gengar would be better if you could see what the enemies maybe have. Otherwise, yeah, it's not really too good right now, especially not in lane, right? Jungle maybe still a bit higher, but in lane it's very bad right now. Mr. Mime is still a top tier Pokemon, easily A+ to me. Snorlax, I think, is a very solid Pokemon. Somewhere between here, right? In solo queue, probably somewhere here, but in general in the game, Snorlax is a great pickup. You can totally play. I think Gardevoir was a great Pokemon right now, even in lane. Deserves for me an A tier, one of the better attackers you can pick. Absol also has fallen off a lot. Gonna put it down into B tier, even in lane, even though I used to, like it a lot. It's just not really it right now. Similar, like the speedsters struggle except for Dodrio. It's quite difficult to get those speedsters to work. Garchomp, actually quite good. Gonna give it an A tier. I think that's totally fair. I think a bit misses still for A+ tier, but I think, A tier just means it's a good Pokemon, right? A always is just decent Pokemon. Lucario. I feel like Lucario's fallen off a tiny bit, but it's still Lucario, right? Like Power Punch, Close Combat is still an amazing thing to do. It has very good laning phase and good Lucario plays. I guess they're gonna pop off on it. Crustle is alright. I think Rock Tomb X-Scissor is fine. Shell Smash X-Scissor is fine. But it's also missing something. It's just not too amazing. And there's just better options, especially defenders right now. There's a lot of good defenders that are much better. Greninja is a terrible laning Pokemon. Attackers in general are not good right now, so picking this Pokemon in lane is even worse. Talonflame. I still would rather have these Pokemon in lane than any of the attackers, but because they do more on their own, right? Stuff like Talonflame and stuff like Gengar just can do things on their own at some point, so I just always prefer them still. Doesn't matter what. Charizard, terrible right now. Zeraora. Also terrible. I do not like this Pokemon. I think it's absolutely awful in laning phase. And in general, it just doesn't really do too much most of the time. Cinderace joins the Greninja down here. We can also put a Sidroid right next to it. The classic triple attacker. There's another one also that belongs into here, which we will talk over later, of course, as well. And then we have next up Eldegoss. Eldegoss is an insanely strong Pokemon right now. I don't know if it is S tier, but at least A+ tier. I feel like S tier is quite difficult right now. I don't think there's too many S tier Pokemon when it comes to laning phase, but it's obviously supports are crazy right now. Easy A+ for Eldegoss, maybe even S tier. Cramorant, fallen off a tiny bit, I would say, but not too much as well. He's still a great Pokemon, but for laning phase, I'm going to give it a B+. Blastoise, I feel like is amazing right now. I do think this Pokemon is super good. Of course, it can struggle in laning phase, but man, this Pokemon is so good right now. I'm going to put it to A+ tier. Pikachu, B+ next to Cramorant. It's alright. Pikachu's just reliable, it's safe, but it's not really too amazing either, right? Clefable joins it says the defender background here, joins the supports in A+ tier. Ninetale joins Pikachu. I think it's a bit better than Pikachu, but it's still nothing too amazing. It's still quite difficult to play sometimes, you might still get overrun by a lot of Pokemon, but it's totally fine to play. Wigglytuff, B+. I don't want to put it higher, I think B+ is totally fine. You can pick Wigglytuff, it's going to do its job. It's not going to be too amazing. It's kind of like a pseudo support defender. But I feel like, again, there's just better defenders to play right now. Slowbro, insanely strong Pokemon. I'm so tired of this Pokemon seeing it. I think I even posted yesterday a video talking about this Pokemon, how I'm annoyed by it. And here it is again. Then we have Machamp, currently actually the highest win rate Pokemon. I don't think it's enough for S tier though. Again, I don't think there's an S tier Pokemon. There might be one, but that I think about right now, they might put into S tier. But for me, also A+ tier. Blissey, A+, joins the supports up here as well. All the supports, defenders. It's a defender support meter right now, I feel like, for sure. Mamoswine, easy A tier for me as well. It's just a good Pokemon. Very annoying to play against. Sylveon is a very reliable attacker Pokemon. I'm just going to have these roads together, maybe. All of these always. Looks a bit fancier. Sylveon is just a good attacker. You can play Mystical Fire, you can play Hyper Voice, and you get your stuff done. It is quite decent. Dragonite is a terrible laner currently. I mean, it's just not even a good Pokemon in general. It does work. Hyper Beam is strong, but yeah, nothing too amazing. Greedent, I think, goes into A tier. I used to always have it up here, but it's alright. Like, Green is just decent. Serena. Serena's difficult, but I feel like Serena has fallen off compared to other Pokemon. It just doesn't do the same as it used to. It can still be played and can still be quite strong and still has very high win rate build as well. But in general, I just don't think it's anything crazy right now. Same for Trevenant. Trevenant is just fine. But honestly, I don't like it too much. I think Trevenant does struggle as well in this meta right now, a tiny bit. But I think B+ is still totally fine for this Pokemon. Still rather see this than, you know, the other Pokemon down here. Aegislash, I think similar to Serena, but I do like Aegislash still a tiny bit more than Serena, I have to admit. But, you know, if I put Serena here, I feel like I have to also put Aegislash down here. Potentially. Actually, no, put Aegislash into A tier still. Hooper, another A+ tier support, maybe even S tier. Actually, Hooper might just be S tier. If I'm being honest, this Pokemon is so broken. It's not gonna always have a high win rate, but I do think Hooper is crazy, crazy good right now. I'm just gonna put it to A+ as well for now. I think S tier is just Mew. I think if there's a S Pokemon, it's Mew and Dodrio. I think that's gonna be my S tier for laning phase as well. Even Dodrio, it's just because the Pokemon is just so annoying and so strong, even in laning phase. If you get to level 5, which you can get quite easily, because this Pokemon actually has good early game and good last hitting, it is so hard to deal with. And then after it gets Drill Peck, it's gonna get every last hit as well. It does so much damage early on. Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna put Hooper up here. I'm gonna put Hooper also into S tier. So I have some S tier Pokemon that I think are very good right now. Duraludon is kind of mid, I would say, in laning phase. It's still better than, it's just better than Greninja, Decidueye, and Cinderace though, because it doesn't have to evolve. It's strong instantly from level 1 on, and it does a lot of damage, right? So it's just this better, straight up better version of these Pokemon when it comes to laning phase. Azumarill, I feel like, has fallen off. Gonna put it into B+ tier. Espeon is alright as well. Goes into these attackers right here, attacker column. Delphox. So Delphox has not good laning phase. Actually, I hate seeing a Delphox laning in my team. I think it's just a jungle Pokemon, I'm gonna be honest. I know people sometimes play it in lane, but that's when they're kind of jungle share experience. But you know what? If I put these Pokemon as well right here, at least Delphox has insane late game, which makes up for the big early game. So if you're able to farm experience back up, it's actually quite decent. Glaceon is a bit of a difficult pick as well. Where do I put Glaceon? I think Icicle is actually pretty good, but I don't know if it deserves this tier. I think it's still also a bit behind these attackers when it comes to laning phase. Again, attackers just are not too good right now, but they still kind of work, but they're nothing too amazing. We have next... B+ is filling quite a lot. We have Buzzwole, which I think deserves a B+ tier, if I'm being honest. I think that's fair for Buzzwole. B+ tier. It is a good Pokemon. Is it going to win you necessarily games? Not really, if I'm being honest, but it's still a good Pokemon. It's very good in laning phase. And can for sure win you games. Next up, we have Tyranitar. Tyranitar. It's just another Pokemon that, like, works, but also not really in laning phase. Like, it can easily work, but do you really want to pick Tyranitar in lane? I mean, it's just a monster of a late game Pokemon. It's a very OP Pokemon, I'm gonna be honest, but it can be quite struggling. Scyther, in laning phase, I think I'm gonna put into A tier still. I think it's a good laning Pokemon for sure. Scizor, though, has fallen off a lot. After the late nerf to Sword Dance, I really don't like Scizor anymore. It also has currently actually one of the lowest win rates in the entire game when it comes to a build, which is Bullet Punch. It's struggling a lot thanks to the Sword Dance nerf because of Scyther. So I'm gonna drop it down a tiny bit. Sableye is just... Oh, Sableye is hard to judge, I feel like. But that Pokemon is still such a pain to deal with. It is so annoying, so I'm gonna put into A+ here. It's just difficult. Zoroark is a great Pokemon, I think. He's just difficult to play. I'm gonna put him into B+ tier. He's the only speedster, I mean the second speedster, right? He does have a lot of potential, and you can even see it in tournament games being played in jungle. In laning phase, I mean. It's just difficult late game. Now we have the Urshifu builds, both of them. And I think they're both just going to A+ tier when it comes to laning phase. I mean, these builds are very OP right now, I feel like. They just can't run over games. It's just promise you have to get to level 5. So maybe it still goes into A tier instead. Put this into A tier and put Dark Urshifu into A+ tier, because Dark Urshifu is actually still better than Water Urshifu. I think this looks good. Dragapult deserves a last bottom tier with these. And then we have Comfey left. Where does Comfey go is the question. Comfey is hard to judge. It's very, very difficult to judge this Pokemon. But I think it's going to be very strong. Not going to lie, guys. I think this Pokemon is going to be super, super strong. Oh, where do I put Comfey? I think I want to put it in between A and A+ tier, I'm going to be honest. That's kind of where I want to put it. I might have to think a bit. I have to think a tiny bit. If it's A+, maybe it's even A+. I think we're going to see a lot of Comfey soon. And it's going to be very annoying, but I think not quite yet. I think I'm going to first put into A. for now. So this is our tier list right now. Gonna zoom out a bit so we can see everything, because it's getting a bit grouped up. And yeah, this is what it's gonna look like for now. I think it looks quite decent, I have to say. I'm quite happy with this. There's always certain picks. Again, let me know in the comments what you agree and what you disagree with. Always interested in hearing other people's opinions, right? It's entertaining, and you know, I also don't always take my advice for granted. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything either. There's things I'm currently probably completely wrong on, but this is what I currently think of these Pokemon and how they perform in the current meta, which is the meta is quite weird. You can see all these supports up top. It's very support and defender heavy as well. And then we just have these OP Pokemon right here, these like very high damage Pokemon as well, with Dodu and Mew. Just have a lot of mobility, great early, great mid, great late game. So yeah, this is for the lane tier list. Now we head into the jungle or central tier list, and we're going to start off with Venusaur, which I think is a very good jungler, honestly. I really like Venusaur jungle, especially with all the supports in the current meta. I'm going to put into A+ tier. Gengar as well, I'm going to drop down by a decent amount, because I don't think it performs too well with how people are currently picking. And I've noticed that in my games, people have actually been picking much better team comps in general, so it's quite difficult. Gardevoir is A+, Psyshock, Psychic is even getting nerfed. That's how good Gardevoir currently is. Absol also, say similar to Gengar, just not really it right now when it comes to jungling. Charizard, I really just don't like Charizard either right now. Not a good Pokemon when it comes to the game. I'm gonna put into B tier. And then, I mean, I don't think it's going to be a C-tier Pokemon, because I think all of these can jungle kind of well. So maybe just even delete this. But yeah, let's continue with Garchomp, which I think is a solid jungle Pokemon. Can easily get to level 5. When it gets Dragon Rush, it can secure a lot of minions for your laners as well. Lucario, schon jungle. Actually, Lucario is C-tier jungle Pokemon. It's not a Pokemon you should take into jungle. That is for sure. Greninja, I think is alright. I think Greninja is still decent. I think A tier is fine. It's just kind of there. It does its job, but it's also, yeah, it's just okay right now, I would say. Talonflame, I think similar to the other speedsters. Funny how they're like in the same tier, I feel like, for lane and for jungling as well. All next to each other, but the aura, again, I think is still a bit worse than those three. I would say myself. Cinderace. Cinderace is not the best in the current meta, I have to admit. I think B+ is fair. It does struggle, I think. It's just difficult to play. It dies so fast. But again, it's very good with supports, of course. But then again, I feel like it's just better Pokemon to play if you want to have that late game hyper carry, which we, you know, Delphox, Venusaur are just so much better late game carries if you want to go for a late game carry jungle Pokemon than a Cinderace is. Delphox is absolutely broken and deserves an S tier. Cramorant, I think, is a solid A tier still with that dive and air slash build. It's just a good build, honestly. It just does a good job. Next up we have Blastoise, which I actually think is a good jungle Pokemon, just because it's very strong right now. I think it's A. If you have your laners be very squishy, which can also happen in solo queue, let's say all your damage dealers or your top and bottom laners pick attackers, you can just go Blastoise jungle and have like that very tanky defender in mid that also does a lot of damage and can still provide a lot of CC for team fights as well. Pikachu jungle, I mean, in theory you can play it. Obviously nothing I would recommend. Ninetales, I think Ninetales is a funny jungle Pokemon, but it's more like a meme. I do really enjoy playing Ninetales jungle, and I think it has potential, but in the end, it's kind of just a meme. Machamp, also good jungle Pokemon, for sure. I think it's A+ is fine. It's just a good Pokemon in general right now when it comes to playing the game. Sylveon is alright. Can jungle with Mystic Fire or Hyper Voice. I think both are totally fine. Decidueye, it also struggles. I don't know, this Pokemon is so popular, but it's just not good. It's so funny. But it can work. It just depends. Like, if there's a draft, there's always Decidueye being picked at some point, just because it kind of does certain things at some point. Dragonite, also going to go into B+ tier. Nothing too crazy, nothing too bad either, though. But yeah, it's just kind of there, I have to admit. Serena can jungle, but it's nothing too amazing either, I have to say. Let's go put it into B tier. Aegislash, similar to these Pokemon, B tier when it comes to jungling, I would say. Duraludon is quite fine. I think it's the first time he's kind of fallen off a tiny bit. But I think A tier is still totally fair when it comes to this Pokemon. I think Glaceon, thanks to Icy Wind, is S tier. I think Icic is A+ or A tier, but Icy Wind is S tier. Gonna put it up there. We have Mew, which is honestly also a great jungle Pokemon. Also played a lot, actually, even by pro teams. I do think it can jungle. The problem is it's also just a great laner, right? Then we have Buzzwole. The problem with Buzzwole is that it's not really a late game Pokemon. So if you put it into jungle for early game, you're also missing out on the strong laning phase, because phase sting is very good, of course. You can get a lot of last hits in laning phase, but you also don't have a late game carry if you put this Pokemon into the jungle, right? That's a bit of an issue. Tyranitar is absolutely amazing. It's OP. I don't like putting it into S tier though, for the similar reason that it can be kind of 50-50 sometimes. But Tyranitar is absolutely broken. Actually, no, Tyranitar, I mean, this Pokemon is dumb. Let's put it into S tier. Tyranitar is just dumb, honestly. Scyther, I'm going to put into A+ tier. I don't think it's S tier anymore. It might even fall further down in the future. Doduo still easily S tier. Jungle Pokemon for sure. What do we have left? Espeon. Espeon is actually alright. But it's more, I think it's similar to like Pikachu and Ninetales when it comes to jungling. Dragapult. Also, I feel like Dragapult is good, but it does struggle a tiny bit as well. There's a lot of interrupts right now that will stop you from in your drain dancing. And you're kind of required to have a Blissey. And you're not always going to have a Blissey in your team, right? Zoroark, it's similar to the other Pokemon. It's a good jungle Pokemon. It's a decent Pokemon, it's just hard to play. And it has obvious counterplay where it might lose you games quite easily if you mess up. But it has a very strong early game, and it can just take over games super, super fast and be absolutely annoying to deal with. Either Night Slash or Feint Attack has great snowball potential. Let's go through the Ushifus, which I think both are S tier. I'm gonna be honest. Both are straight up S tier when it comes to, yeah, playing the game. They're so dumb, right? They're just dumb. Both of those builds are dumb. Dark Urshifu is still better, of course, but Water Urshifu is also somewhere between here and here. It will snowball games like crazy. Azumarill wouldn't recommend playing in jungle right now. Scissor also. Scissor, when I see someone Scissor jungling, I die on the inside. So please don't do it. don't jungle with this Pokemon. Trevenant, I did make a jungle Trevenant video, so obviously I won it, so it's S tier. But no, of course, you don't jungle with Trevenant. I like to I'd like to make meme videos as well. But yeah, this is for the jungle tier list. Looking quite interesting. We have the speedsters and some attackers right here. I think my S tier, I do have a lot of S tier Pokemon, but I do think all of these Pokemon are super busted when it comes to jungling. A+ are just also very solid Pokemon. A tier, they're alright. They're pickable. They're decent. B+ is like yes and no. It can be 50-50. B, I would not recommend playing, but they can jungle. And C, I would not recommend playing at all in jungle. And then, of course, the defender and supports. Yeah, I think the only defender that can jungle is that Blastoise. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed this tier list. Again, let me know in the comments what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!